David Tool is here, the blogger with the biggest pen, the smartest guy, they say, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga. And I was just setting up my notice on Facebook as to what we're going to mention. And I was going to tell about Dr. Curtis Caine, a retired prophet, a seer, if you will. You could call him a secular seer, who in 1966 wrote a letter and sent it to every physician in Mississippi. He lives in Hixson at Morning Point Retirement Center. It's an assisted living facility, a very dignified, refined gentleman whom, when I dropped in to see him yesterday with my mother in her wheelchair, she was next door at Life Care Center of Hixson. He graciously greeted us, and we chatted about theology. We chatted about law, and his great concerns about what he'd heard in Sunday school. He was offering a corrective to the Sunday school teacher. So we're going to meet Dr. Caine, Dr. Curtis Caine, tomorrow by God's providential grace, and hear the prophecy he made in 1966. And you're going to want to tune in and tell a friend about my program. This is David Toulis, and I argue that you should love your neighbor and buy local. And we argue for local economy, the free market, and a kind of personalistic ethic to look at our business and our dealings with people and the decisions we make in terms of local economy and the personal nature of economics and business. For example, should you have your old mother, 94, like mine, at an assisted living facility at $5,000 a month, or should you hire local people to sit with her and create? And should you create jobs? That'd be a question that a local economy guy like me would want to discuss with you. But right now, I have a caller on the line. What is on your mind?
Well, I've had a really protracted family litigation, and the mother of my child remarried, and then had another child with that husband, and now they're getting divorced, and the family courts have not been kind to either of us ultimately.
Either of you, your ex-wife, or your ex-wife and or you and the other husband. Who's the?
She and I were never married, so our legally our situations are radically different. But fundamentally, you could argue that her fitness as a parent in both of our cases is questionable. But getting that to the ears of the judge has been difficult, to say the least.
All right. So now, what is your at least your first name?
My name is Raphael.
Raphael. Okay. So Raphael, now you're describing a problem. There seem to be, you've kind of layered it out here. You have yes, a woman. You were with a woman with whom you had a child. She then left you married and had a child with her husband, from whom she is now divorced. So here's a woman with two children, one the fruit of a marriage that has broken, and the other you might say an illegitimate child with you. You're living. Is that a son or a daughter, Raphael?
I have a son.
A son. Okay. So now, how has the court gotten involved in this? Why is it juvenile court or chancery?
It's a circuit, actually.
And so, okay, what is the issue in circuit court?
Well, originally, I've been through three attorneys, a year of pro se litigation myself. Just the entirety of 2017, I was pro se, and just recently, I took on counsel again. But my first attorney. My petition for paternity went into circuit because we were unmarried, and that became more complicated ultimately. But that's where it started, and then getting it moved out of there is not.
So you're asking? Are you asking for a petition for paternity? Are you saying that you want a judge to make an order stating that you are the lawful father of that child, and therefore you have some custody rights? Are you asserting custody rights, Raphael?
that's what initially started the litigation. Was we lived together for about 2.5 years, and then when we split, I had I wasn't even included on the birth certificate, so I had no grounds for any visitation or any rights whatsoever at that point. So I believe to my first attorney, the most efficient way to get to that was through circuit court. But that was in 2009. So it's gone through several. There have been orders, but like the enforceability of those orders is in question. It is a multi-layered, multifaceted thing. But what I have pursued is paternity, and regardless of the hurdles that I jump, I'm generally considered unfit, whereas she's generally considered fit. But the factual evidence entered into court, I have lots of factual evidence as to my fitness, whereas she has only the presumption. So as these things go on, just the machinations grind slowly.
Before which judge is your case being heard?
Division 1, Bennett.
Judge Bennett. Okay, so that's circuit. Well, what are you trying? What are you trying to have the judge do? What's pending before him right now? And what are the objections?
After all this time, what I would really like out of all of this is an order that is specific and enforceable and coherent and legitimate across my child support, across my visitation, across the boundaries of can and cannot. The orders that are currently in place are built on poorly structured legal documents. I mean, I can send you or at least give you the case number if you want to do some research. But the initial orders are fraught with issues. So all I'm trying to get to is something that I can live with. And that's been the greatest difficulty.
Well, I guess the question my listener has, Raphael, is where do things stand, and how do you get the judge to see the evidence that you have or hear the arguments that you have to make about your evidence and your claims as against your former girlfriend's presumptions? I mean, can you get him to look at documents?
Strategy?
I'm sorry?
Are you asking my strategy?
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out where the conflict is and how you're trying to approach this to obtain relief, to obtain connection with your son.
The conflict is that she and her attorney simply, to use a word of art, do fraud upon the court, where every time for example, if I seek to adjust my child support through Maximus, they will respond with a vague allegation to deny me my time, which removes Maximus from the modification process and sends it back to circuit court, where nothing can be accomplished in the child support issue until the civil issue is resolved. And that's happened multiple times now. So instead of me making forward progress with anything legitimate in the case, they do these maneuverings that keep it in this constant state of limbo.
And so you'd rather have the case settled through this management corporation. It's a gigantic contractor here in Tennessee that receives, I think, billions of dollars a year just from, many tens of millions of dollars a year from the state to manage all kinds of things. It has a judicial power, as I understand it. And are you saying you'd rather have your case being heard by this company, Maximus, rather than going into circuit court again under Judge Bennett?
Well, Well, no, as far as my issues with Maximus are simply like, if they want to do their wage assignment, then that's fine, as long as the order is relevant to and adjusted to both of our incomes and assessed properly. I have, as far as Maximus is concerned, there is only one enforceable order that they have for child support, and that was issued as a temporary order for child support back in 2010. That is the only order that Maximus has actually been able to enforce against me. And that in and of itself has caused problems. So like I said, every time I've attempted to modify it, they have thrown vague accusations, and we've ended back at the civil side.
Well, I'm curious to know why Maximus would object, because you said a moment ago that you were trying to pay more in child support. Why would anyone or anyone's any overseer object to that?
I'm not necessarily trying to pay more or less. All I'm trying to do is get to a fair assessment, and that is like, I will ultimately, like, the other side would not fight so hard against this if a fair assessment were going in their favor. Does that make sense?
Well, I think I understand that. My listener's wondering now, he's a little bewildered about the details. Is there a way, Raphael, you can step back from your particular case, which seems to be, you seem to be in sort of quicksand or a very thick sludge that's drying against you, and you can't get to the other side. What's the main problem? Is it judges? Is it Maximus? Is it that there are too many steps and nothing can be done in anybody's favor? Where's the problem? Where are the two main problems, Raphael?
The biggest problem, I mean, ultimately, you can lump judges in with this category, but I think the hitman lawyer attitude of family court, where even if you represent a terrible person, and you know that child is in a bad situation, the presumptions of law in that factor work for you. So I can't say the words on air that go with lawyers.
Okay, well,
my regards,
we know lawyers are probably the lowest class of people in the city. I would not doubt that for a minute. But let me see if I can help my listener kind of get through what you're saying. We're not quite sure where we stand with the story here, Raphael. Okay, so you want to have sort of a clear connection, legally established, that you have a right to visit your son, who's probably 13 or 14 years old now.
He's 11 right now.
11. Okay, so you want to have a clear order allowing that to happen, allowing a fair assessment of your income and so on and your assets, so that you can have a correct payment of child support, which you want to be current on, to avoid Maximus's shark teeth. And go ahead.
And I recognize that child support as a function of caring for the child is if he's not living with me the majority of the time, I can work and pay for, like, I'm not going to argue against child support. That's not my position, just so that we're clear on that. I will do my fair share for my son. The issue is that he's special needs, and that adds a whole different layer to it, where he can't speak for himself in his preferences and these kinds of things. But that allows her to take my time from me. And so all I've ever wanted is to be involved in his life and be there at the school events. And she's ultimately the problem in my situation, but across the system, what you have is, it waited for the mom, which is, to some degree reasonable, as that's where the responsibility ultimately falls in a lot of these cases. But if you have a dad that is active and wants to be involved and has demonstrated repeatedly that he is fit and well, to parent, then I believe that regardless of the lawyers or the judges, that there should be mechanisms.
Okay, so now I see what you're saying. You're saying, Raphael, and I do thank you for calling. And the number, by the way, for the David Tooley Show is 800-8949, 800-8949. And we're brought to you by Nuganomics.com. I do suggest you subscribe to that. We do a lot on legal rights and assertion of your rights, and being a belligerent claimant in person. It's very important to do that. If you're a free person, you will act freely and not act subserviently and compliantly, especially when someone's walking upon your rights. You have to have a certain courage and, fearing God more than fearing man attitude. Now, Raphael, what you're saying is there should be, your main complaint seems to be summarized this way: the system somehow should have a way of easily evaluating a proactive, loving father, and not keep putting up barriers and roadblocks to his involvement in his son or daughter's life. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
That there's a presumption against you.
So 36-6-101 is has these list of factors, right? That are, I guess there are 15 of them or so. And one of them is, who is the child remained with the majority of time? Where is their comfort level with that? And so that, as a fundamental one, is the largest mechanism by which, the bad parents can maintain control, because all they need is a dirtbag lawyer to protract these litigations and offset things by multiple years, which stacks these weighted factors back in favor of the mother, regardless of her fitness.
And there's a presumption against the father, and since you're the father of this 11-year-old, you can't use that list of requirement, that list of qualifications in your favor.
Generally, right. Regardless of my activity in the positive, it doesn't overcome the fact that he has remained with her for all of this time, despite my best efforts.
What kind of advice would you have my other listener, Raphael, from your biggest mistake in this encounter with the courts, fighting with your ex-girlfriend for the custody of your son? What is the biggest mistake you made, and how can you advise in short form here to do better?
Okay. Well, can I plug something? I mean, I don't know how
go ahead.
This works.
We have 2 minutes.
I got on, the biggest mistake that I made was trusting an attorney to either have mine or my child's best interests, regardless of what they say. There's a program that I found online called jurisdictionary.com. And it is kind of the Haynes manual or the Chilton manual of lawsuits. Lawsuits are meant to be these machines where, if you input these things and you maintain these things and these things all click together, if you have the evidence, if you have the law, if you write things appropriately and specifically, and all of the slots get filled, then the function of law is that you should win. And I think that including lawyers in that has detracted from the actually surprisingly simple. Had I approached it that way from back in 2009, I think my outcome would have been better, because I would not have trusted the attorneys to do the things that I was able to do. That was what the year of pro se work taught me.
Yeah, pro se means doing it yourself. You are representing for yourself. Pro se means for, se, or se in Latin is for yourself. So you're for yourself. And Raphael here is recommending jurisdictionary, and that bounces over to a website called howtowinincourt.com. And you also may have heard of Nolo Press, Nolo, Nolo Press. That's a good self-help platform, also, with many books and CDs, things on how to deal with contractors, how to deal with divorce, how to handle your own criminal case.
I'm sorry, I had never heard of that. Low Press.
Yeah, Nolo Press. I think it's nolopress.com. So you, my listener, who care about asserting yourself and just knowing where things stand, knowing how to evaluate a lawyer. You're paying him $200 an hour, and of course he's quadruple billing you, right? He goes down to the court, he bills all of his clients the same fee. Know how he's doing by getting Nolo Press book on your topic. I do recommend that. And Raphael, thanks for the recommendation on Jewish Dictionary, and appreciate your call. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
This is David Toulis, brought to you by Nuganomics.com. Love your neighbor and buy local. And guess who's next? Sean Hannity is next. The great Sean Hannity here at Nuga Radio 92.7 FM. And thank you.
3, 2, 1.
Chatham, Nuga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
The Dalton man who was hit by lightning has died. Egan Stanley was celebrating the 4th of July at the Dalton Golf and Country Club when he